The battlefield stretched across the crimson plains of Theta VII like a graveyard of civilizations. Smoke curled from the wreckage of dropships and alien war machines, painting the twin suns in shades of ash. Among the debris, two figures remained standing, one predator, one prey, or so Maya had thought. She circled William slowly, her silver eyes analyzing every inch of the human soldier. His left leg bore a deep gash from her previous strike, blood seeping through the torn fabric of his combat suit. The wound should have crippled him, should have brought him to his knees, screaming. But he stood there, weight balanced evenly on both legs, dark eyes tracking her movement with the patience of someone who had all the time in the world. Maya was Cathari, a warrior race that had conquered 17 star systems in the past century alone. Her kind had perfected the art of war before humanity had crawled from its oceans. She had killed countless opponents, some stronger, some faster, but none more irritating than this human who refused to acknowledge his own mortality. "Your species is fascinating," she said, her voice carrying the harmonic quality of her dual vocal cords. "You feel pain, yet you ignore it. You acknowledge your weakness, yet you fight as if you're invincible." William said nothing. He never did. In the 3 days since their units had clashed on this forgotten world, Maya had learned that humans were peculiar about their silence. They hoarded words like precious metals, spending them only when necessary. She decided to end this. Her blade, forged from stellar titanium and blessed by the warsmiths of Cathar, hummed with molecular disruption frequencies. It had cleaved through powered armor, through the crystalline hides of Vorlex warriors, through the reinforced hulls of starships. One more strike to that injured leg would sever it completely. Maya lunged, her enhanced muscles propelling her forward with lethal grace. The blade arced downward, aimed precisely at the wound. She expected the scream, expected him to finally break. The impact never came the way she anticipated. The moment her sword connected with his leg, reality seemed to hiccup. There was a sound, not of metal cutting flesh, but of something far more fundamental breaking. Her blade, her beautiful, perfect weapon, shattered into 7 pieces. The fragments hung in the air for a heartbeat before clattering to the ground like broken promises. William didn't scream. He didn't even flinch. Maya froze, her mind struggling to process what had just occurred. She stared at the shards of her sword, then at his leg. The wound was still there, still bleeding, but the leg itself. It had absorbed the strike that should have destroyed it. "How?" The word escaped her lips before she could stop it. For the first time since their dance of death had begun, William spoke. His voice was rough, tired, utterly human. "We're stubborn." It wasn't an answer. It was an understatement so profound it bordered on insult. Maya's training screamed at her to retreat, to reassess, to call for backup. But her pride, the pride of a warrior who had never fled from combat, kept her rooted in place. She had come to this world to prove that humanity's recent victories were flukes, aberrations in the natural order where the Cathari ruled supreme. The humans had appeared on the galactic stage only 40 standard years ago, stumbling out of their single star system with primitive FTL drives and laughable weapons. Every species had expected them to be easy prey. Every species had been wrong. "Your technology is inferior," Maya said, buying time to think. "Your ships are slower, your weapons weaker, your lifespans are a fraction of ours. By every logical measure, you should have been extinct within a decade of making contact with the greater galaxy." William took a step forward. His injured leg moved as easily as the uninjured one, as if pain was merely a suggestion his nervous system chose to ignore. "You're right, we should be." "Then why aren't you?" He smiled then, and it was the saddest expression Maya had ever seen on any face. "Because we've been dying since the moment we're born. Every human knows they've only got maybe 80, 90 years if they're lucky. We don't have time to be careful. We don't have time to be afraid." Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. The Cathari lived for 3 centuries. They had time to plan, time to strategize, time to retreat and return. Time had always been their greatest advantage. "Your species fights like you have nothing to lose," she said slowly, understanding dawning like an unwelcome sun. "We fight like we have everything to lose," William corrected. "Every single moment, that's the difference." He moved then, faster than she expected from someone who should barely be able to stand. His fist connected with her thorax, not a trained strike, not elegant, just pure desperate force. Maya felt her secondary ribs crack, felt the air explode from her lungs. She staggered backward, shocked not by the pain but by the audacity. He had shattered his hand in that strike. She could see the broken fingers, the unnatural angles. Yet he was already moving to strike again. Maya's combat computer flashed warnings across her optical implants. Probability of victory, declining. Recommendation, tactical withdrawal. But she ignored it, driven by something she rarely felt, curiosity mixed with horror. She caught his broken hand, twisted, heard the wrist snap. William grunted but used the momentum to drive his knee into her midsection. More ribs cracked. Her internal organs, enhanced and reinforced though they were, protested against the impact. They fell together, a tangle of limbs and desperation. Maya's training gave her the advantage in technique, but William's absolute refusal to acknowledge damage was negating that advantage. Every time she hurt him, he simply incorporated the injury into his next attack, weaponizing his own destruction. "Why won't you stop?" Maya demanded, pinning him finally, her forearm across his throat. "You've lost. Your body is broken." William looked up at her with those dark, defiant eyes. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. "My body was already broken the day I was born, started dying the moment I took my first breath. We all did." He coughed, and she felt the vibration through her arm. "Difference is, we learn to live with it, learn to fight with it. You people live for centuries and still don't understand. Death is what makes us dangerous." "That's insane," Maya whispered. "Yeah," William agreed, "but it's also why you'll lose this war." In the distance, Maya heard the sound she'd been dreading, the atmospheric roar of human dropships. Reinforcements. They always sent reinforcements, throwing bodies at problems until the problems went away or the humans did. And there were always more humans. She could kill William now, crush his throat, but what would it prove? There would be another human behind him, and another, each one just as broken and just as unwilling to acknowledge their breaking. Maya released him and stood, backing away. Her commanders would call it retreat. She called it wisdom, knowing when you were fighting an enemy that couldn't be defeated because they had already defeated themselves and learned to live in the ruins. "Go," she said, gesturing to the approaching ships. "Tell your kind that Maya of the Cathari understands now." William struggled to his feet, cradling his broken hand against his ruined ribs. "Understands what?" She looked at him, this fragile, mortal, absolutely terrifying creature. "That you humans don't fight to win. You fight because you can't imagine doing anything else with the time you have left." As she activated her personal shield and called for extraction, Maya realized that humanity had already won the war. Not through superior technology or tactics, but through the simple, horrifying fact that they treated every battle like it was their last. Because for them, it always could be. The last thing she saw before her transport pod lifted her away was William, still standing on that broken leg, watching her go with something like respect in his eyes. Behind him, 100 more humans were landing, each one carrying that same fatal determination. The galaxy would learn, as she had, that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their guns or ships. It was their absolute refusal to stay broken.